last year, more and more, I've been able to slowly add more film photography to my work overall, especially weddings and portraits. And it's been awesome. I really like being able to add some variety to my workflow, and I've really been loving the results. If you're interested in which cameras are the best to do that, I'd love to talk to you about my 5 favorite cameras for wedding photography and portraits. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Blanchard Film. My name is Rodman Blanchard, and I'm a photographer and filmmaker from Newark, New Jersey, with most of my works being in wedding portraits and now corporate work. And today, we're going to be talking about, like I said previously, some film cameras that I really love incorporating alongside my digital workflow. Aside from the fact that it separates me from the competition, I also get really beautiful results when I shoot film, especially when there's a lot of light inside a room or especially outside during the daytime. Now, film isn't perfect. It also has its cons. The learning curve, the repairs, the cost of film. Regardless, it's worth it for me because it's made me a better photographer, and I love exploring this aspect of my craft. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. Ground rules. I'm just gonna explain each camera, how I use it, what I like and what I don't like. I'm not gonna be getting into how much each camera weighs by the gram or how many elements are in the lenses. Google that joint. There's also going to be a 5-star rating system for 5 sections: learning curve, ease of use, pace, price, and results. You're also going to see some sample photos and an overall result about how I feel about using that camera. The Canon A1. Yeah, you knew this was coming. You pop the back open, you load film. I would show you, but there's film inside right now. You crank until you get to the first frame, manual focus, you press the shutter, and then you crank on by. It has a nice feel to it. The ergonomics are awesome. And I have shot some bangers on this bad boy. Yeah, it is a real one. Learning curve, it's about a 4. It is, if this is your first film camera and you haven't shot film a lot, it's gonna take a while to get used to the cranking and the manual focus. Ease of use, also another 4 stars. Again, shutter, crank, manual focus, shutter, crank, manual focus. It also shoots aperture priority and shutter priority. You don't have to worry about setting too much to get the right exposure. It does a lot of the work for you. The pace, I'm gonna give it 3. I would give it 4 or more, but that manual focus does tend to slow things down. If the bride is walking down the aisle or if there's a lot of dancing and movement, I wouldn't use this bad boy, no. Price, I'm gonna give this 5 stars because this is not expensive. You can get a good Canon A1 right now for about, let's say $250. Not to mention there's a lot of lenses, FD lenses, that you can adapt to your cinema cameras or video cameras that give you that cinema camera look. So if you're a videographer and you're shooting photo as well and you want to add you want to add film, this is really a good film camera to go for. We're going to give this 3.5 or a 75, a solid 75. The Mamiya RZ67. This is medium format film, so we're jumping up from 35 to 120, and the medium format just means a larger film negative. The bigger the film is, the better it does in light and also more detail. This is a 6:7 film negative aspect ratio, which means it's a very large film aspect ratio. You're gonna get a lot of detail. So when you nail the shot, you nail the shot. It looks absolutely beautiful. So this is the back of the camera, and if you're asking, yes, I do have it annotated so I don't mess up. And using this camera, there's a lot of steps, which we'll get into. But you pop open the back of the camera, put in the film, and this is the take-up spool. You secure the back, you wind the camera until you get to your first frame. This is the focus knob, and as you focus, the camera has what's called bellows focusing, which means the lens itself is getting closer to the subject instead of actually focusing elements that's inside of the lens. This means that you can get really, really beautiful macro shots without necessarily needing a macro lens. You take your shot with the shutter button being right here, and then you crank forward one more time, and then that's it. That's usually your your process throughout the wedding day. Best part about this is the viewfinder. Absolutely beautiful. One of the best viewfinders, if not the best viewfinder I've ever seen on a camera. The learning curve, I'm gonna give this a 3. It is a bit of a learning curve. The size, learning how to focus, the cranking, where the shutter button is, it takes a while getting used to. Ease of use, we're also giving this 3 stars. The viewfinder inside, although being beautiful, everything is reversed. So when you move left, you're really moving right. Being able to move, then focus, then take the shot, being where the shutter button is, yeah, we're gonna give ease of use 3 stars. So we're also giving the pace 3 stars. Because of the manual focusing and the shutter and everything that I explained before, you do have to take your time when you take the shot. You really wanna nail focus on this, because when you do nail focus, it's tack sharp, it's beautiful. So this does force you to slow down quite a bit. The price, 2 stars. This is gonna cost, if you look on eBay now, you're looking at 2K plus. So this camera plus the 110 2.8 lens, 110 millimeter 2.8, which is equivalent to 50 millimeter 1.2 somewhat. Yeah, it's expensive. But because the results are so great and so impeccable, we're giving this camera 4.5 stars, or a solid 85. The next camera on this list is the Canon EOS3. 100% one of the best cameras that you can add to your digital workflow, just due to the fact that it looks and feels like a digital camera. If you take a look at it, the grip and the look of it, the shutter is right here. And the way this works is that you pop the back open, you add film right in the back, aperture priority, shutter priority, or full manual, and it's doing a lot of the work for you. Another good thing about this camera is that there's autofocus, which is a game changer when it comes to shooting film. Because you're leaving the realm of that manual focus and having to nail focus, the camera does a lot of the work for you. So you have autofocus and auto exposure. All you're really doing is pressing the shutter, beautiful shutter sound, and moving on to the next shot. Another great thing about using the Canon EOS 3 is that it works perfectly with all of my EF glass. So here's a Canon 85 1.2, one of my favorite portrait lenses. And the fact that I can add this to my camera and take awesome portraits on film the same way I do with my Canon 5D Mark IV, it really makes this a wonderful investment when it comes to shooting film, and to have this alongside digital. Learning curve, I'm gonna give this a 4. I had to give this a 5, but to learn how to set your auto exposure points is a bit of a challenge. Even if you don't use digital cameras, just shooting film on this, it doesn't feel like realms away from shooting your regular digital cameras. Ease of use, I'm also gonna give this 4 stars. Again, shutter, everything automated, and using glass that you use with your digital work, it works really well. Pace, I'm gonna give this 5 stars. This is what I would use if the bride was walking down the aisle, or if there's a party, or there's a lot of movement. The fact that it has autofocus and the fact that it also has auto exposure, all you're really doing is lining up your composition and then pressing the shutter. The price, I'm gonna give this 4 stars. It's not too expensive at all. I expected this camera to be at least $1,000, and you can get them now for under 500. 4 stars, solid 80, 100% all around. You're not missing the shot, you're getting the shot. Yeah. Next camera I'm adding onto this list is the HOSA Blad 500 cm. This is basically the RZ67, but smaller. So whereas the RZ67 is 6x7 format, this is 6x6, which is a square format. I would argue that even though this is smaller and works similarly to the RZ67, the RZ's viewfinder is a bit better than this. I absolutely love using this on a wedding day just because of the aesthetic, the ease of use, the variety that I get with this camera. This is definitely a ways away from the Canon R5 and the 5D Mark IV that I normally shoot on a wedding day. The learning curve on this is a bit deep, especially from loading the film. Actually, let me just take you through it. This is the back of the camera. Undo the back like this, and this is where the film goes. Then putting it back inside the camera, rolling it to the first frame, you'll feel that stop. You would open the top, look through the viewfinder, manual focus, and put your settings into the lens themselves. You got to take out the dark slide. You can line up your shot, and then you crank to the next one. For me personally, I love that process. By the time you get the shot, you've either convinced yourself, yes, I want to take this shot, or yeah, this shot isn't worth it. Let me just get it on digital and move on. One thing I will say, results are beautiful. This must be a medium format thing, because even though I have gotten some beautiful results on 35mm film, results on this are sometimes better than the digital shots that I've gotten. Same thing for the RZ67. So the learning curve on this camera is a 2. I would give it a 1, honestly. I would comfortably give this camera 1 star, because you have to load the film, crank this to the first frame, go through the viewfinder, manually focus, put in your settings, take the shot, then you have to crank to the next shot. And learning that process, even from loading the film, it can be a bit taxing if you're not used to it or if you're not comfortable with that as of yet. I would give the learning curve a 2. I would give the learning curve a 1. I'm gonna give ease of use 3 stars. Even though the learning curve is a bit deep, after you've learned it, you will become comfortable with using this camera. I usually hold it like this, and I have my focus. I usually focus with this hand, and I shoot with this hand, crank with this hand. As for the pace, I'm gonna give the pace 2 stars. This is not what you're capturing action with or movement. This is really for flat lays, portraits, landscapes. Same thing with the RZ. You really want to nail focus and get the shot, but when you do, results are absolutely beautiful. I love it. Price, we're also giving that a 2. It's expensive. This is considered to be one of the best medium format cameras out there, just due to the quality of the images that you get. Especially when you take your time and you nail that shot, you do get beautiful photos from this, but it ain't cheap. Especially with this lens, which I believe is the 80mm f2.8, which is again the equivalent of the 50mm 1.2 somewhat. This one, this whole setup here is pretty expensive. It's gonna hit your pockets, but it's worth it. We're gonna give this camera a 4.5 stars, which is a solid 90. This is a really good camera. And last but not least, the holy grail of wedding film cameras, the Contax 645. This bad boy will get the job done. Like, whenever I want to take the best shot possible on a wedding day, this is the one I go to. This is her. 100% of the time, never fails. It's just an awesome camera. So this is the camera in its entirety, and the back is where you load the film. You're able to take this out. This is where you load your film. Once you load your film, you put it into the camera like so. Make sure you hear that click. You close the back, then you're raring to go. Autofocus on a medium format camera. Thank you very much. Auto exposure on a medium format camera. Again, thank you. The format for this film camera is 6:45, as you can see right here, which means it's not 6x6, it's not 6x7, but it's considered to be the smallest one, 6x4.5. Since you're in the medium format realm, it's still bigger than 35mm, so you're gonna get more detail. The best part about it is the autofocus and the auto exposure. It's almost as if using the EOS3, but on medium format. Not to mention the use of this lens right here, which is the 80mm f2. That's like using a 50mm 1.0. Yeah, it's awesome. It works well in low light. Its use of autofocus, you will nail that focus even at f2. So being able to use this type of lens on this type of system, it works. It just works. Overall, I tremendously love using this camera. It is just awesome. Learning curve is a 3. It does take you a while to learn how to focus. It's not autofocus like you would get on a digital camera. You do have to press a button in the back right over here that tells the camera, okay, autofocus, and then you can take your shot. You can have it on servo, continuous, or just that one shot, but regardless, it is an extra step that you do have to consider in your photo taking flow. Ease of use, we're giving it a 4. Once you put the film in, autofocus, shoot, autofocus, shoot. Pace, I'm also gonna give this a 4. Again, the autofocus and the auto exposure does help to speed things along a bit, and doing this in medium format, awesome. Price, we're giving this -3 stars. Yeah. This thing is expensive. Rent the camera, just rent it. Rent the camera. You have a wedding coming up, rent it, use it, enjoy it, give it back. Just simply based on the autofocus and being able to nail the shot every single time and the detail you get with a medium format, I'm giving this 5 stars or a 98. I don't think there's any perfect camera out there, but this comes close to it. That's it, ladies and gents. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video has inspired you to start getting into film and adding it to your digital work, and sometimes even shooting film on its own. I really enjoyed shooting film. Like I've said before, it has some really awesome results. I love the way it looks, and being able to shoot digital and film, it does add a little bit of extra oomph to my work, for lack of a better word. I have absolutely loved being able to take some wonderful, beautiful shots on film, and just that film process has definitely made me a better photographer.